Thanks, Nate. There was a moment there where I thought it was going to be like that famous Oprah episode where somebody in the audience was going to get car keys, right? Everybody got the car keys. You missed a great opportunity to pull an Oprah on 300 people. You're getting in free, you're getting in free, you're getting in free. So, you missed your Oprah moment. But that's all right. Thank you for having me. This is a pretty amazing group. I'm impressed. I've been in Bali for the past year, so I've missed out on the opportunity to be here. I've known about this and show up, and while I was gone, something amazing happened in San Diego. So congratulations to Creative Mornings San Diego, and to Nate and the board and the volunteers. Thank you for having me. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. That was awesome timing. I'm kind of what a dog breeder might call a mutt. I hate the question, what do you do? Because I'm like a quarter attorney, a quarter professor, a quarter entrepreneur, and a quarter hack of all trades. In fact, I just was speaking to one of the people in the audience, and she said, what does it mean to be a hack? And I said, well, I can build cabinets, and I've never taken a woodworking class. I've taught myself to code basic JavaScript and HTML. I can fix engines and cars and start businesses that I have no idea what I'm doing, and I kind of just figure it out. So what makes me, I guess, why am I here talking to you? I have no idea. I've started a number of businesses. I've been involved as a co-founder of a wine barrel company, of a audiobook publishing company. My latest business is a software company. We do software that tracks your trademark, so if you have an infringement, you'll be able to catch it. And I guess I should convince you that I'm somehow credible to the creative community. I'm a terrible painter, but I do some oil on canvas. I play the saxophone sometimes. Terrible on the guitar, but I'm learning the remix to Ignition on guitar. Not impressed. One of the most fun businesses that I helped co-found is a shoe company. We've been doing shoes in Orange County, handmade, artisanal, one at a time, made in the USA. And I'm proud to say we were doing that before it was trendy to do handmade, artisanal, one at a time crafted products. So if you want to Google it, it's visually beautiful. Esquivel is the name of the company, Esquivel. I co-founded that. Although if you were to ask the designer about my involvement in the creative process, he would disavow me completely. He keeps me out of the design process, and probably for good reason. In fact, I'm pretty creative, but if you try to give me a tool, I'd probably raster your vector. I'd have your layers all messed up. But as an IP attorney, I gotta laugh, thank you. Courtesy laugh. As an attorney and as an entrepreneur, most of what I do revolves around intellectual property. And most of the talks I give are about intellectual property. I'm not gonna give that talk. I'm gonna talk about ethics today. Greed is good. Greed is good was a famous statement from the 1987 Oliver Stone film, Wall Street. Some of you in here are old enough to have seen it back then. They had a remake, a sequel that came, so maybe some of you have seen it as well. Michael Douglas won an Oscar for his performance, And he made a speech where he said to the shareholders of the company, greed is good. Greed cuts through. Greed gets things done. Greed works. And the character is one of the top 25 villains of movie history. So this is not really intended to be, in the movie, a mantra. But it wouldn't surprise you to find out that this has become the mantra for corporate America. Greed is good. Around the same time that that movie came out, the prevailing economics theories actually included a very similar approach to economics and law. I'll get that. So economics theory around the same time began to look at the selfishness and self-interest of market actors and basically endorse law and policy that was on par with greed is good. The ends justify the means. Now, I'm not sure I can say greed isn't good. I mean, there is a body of theory that endorses that approach. But I think that what this tells us, greed is good, is there's a story about ethics. And bigger than ethics that you might think lawyers want to talk about, not ethics in the specific acts of what is ethical, what should I do, what's legal, what should be prescribed. But what I want to talk about is the broader issue of ethos. So more than ethics in the specific sense, but ethos in the broader sense. You forgive me for the mic moving around. I speak enough that I shouldn't be doing this, but it's the first time in a decade I've had a handheld mic. So it's bringing me back to my hold it still from a long time ago. Used to having something that I can wave my hands around, stick my hand in my pocket. Okay. So one of the things I could have done with this talk is talk about the ethics for creative people, what you can and can't do. I do that kind of talk a lot, and I'll put this out there for the creative community. One of my favorite things to do is sit down with creative people and take an hour, if I need to, and talk you through the specifics of copyright law, right of publicity law, answer those questions that many artists have. How much of something can I use without getting sued for infringement? Or, can I sell a painting I made of Sylvester Stallone and make copies? These are fun questions to get. I would be happy to come and speak for free at any event that any artist group has on those subjects. But today we're going to talk about ethos in the general sense. We're not going to get down into the specifics. I hope that works for you guys. I've got some good news and I've got some bad news. I'm going to start with the bad news. The bad news is I think that we have an ethical dilemma in America. I think that we're in a bad place. I think it's partly a product of that ethos that began in the 1980s. Some ethical stories of the last few years. Many of us were in business when the economy melted down in 2008. That was a product of systemic unethical behavior that started at the highest ranks of the banking institutions and government and regulation and went right on down to the common person relying on their credit applications for buying a house and trying to make money. We had a massive systemic ethical problem. Some recent stories, maybe you've heard of Theranos, a company, startup worth $9 billion in terms of its valuation. We call that a unicorn, any startup that's private that's worth $1 billion. Turns out they weren't using their own technology to do the blood testing that they said they were doing. Just unethical behavior, too much money at stake. You might have heard of the Mast Brothers, it's famous artisanal chocolatiers in Brooklyn. A couple of hipsters, big beards, got outed by a blogger in a story called What Lies Behind the Beards. And lies was in L-I-E-S, right? Lies, the lies, because it turns out they were maybe not doing all the things that they purported they were doing. The stories, of course, you've heard your own, you see these stories on a big scale. On a small scale, I've got a funny story. A few years ago, I had the opportunity to go hear His Holiness the Dalai Lama at USD. I don't know if anyone else was there. And the line was quite long, longer than your line this morning, because of security, because they should have security because people are crazy. There was no security here because I have no one intending to assassinate. I hope. Not yet. The unthinkable happened. People took cuts in line to see the Dalai Lama. But the irony is not lost on you. It was completely lost on them. I mean, my mouth went like, looking around like, did anyone see these? And then again and again. Ethical dilemmas, the state of the nation. People are angry. Greed is good as an ethos, is not serving society well. And people are upset about it. I think most of the upset people are voting for that. The good businessman is running for office right now. Not to get political. I'm a Gen Xer, I'm not political at all, actually. I don't really care. So you have this problem. What can we do to solve this ethical problem, this problem of ethos? Well, you could make some laws. We can prescribe behavior. We can, make more laws to keep bankers from lying and keep borrowers from saying that they make more money than they do, right? We can do that. But I don't think you're going to solve the bigger social problem of ethos. Something permeates society right now. It started 20 or 30 years ago. How do we solve that problem? I think we solve it with ethos. Now, let's talk about the ethos of the generations. This is, anecdotal. I'm not an economist or a sociologist, but let's talk about the boomers. Some boomers in here. I hope I don't offend you too much. Boomers are the ones with this ethos that greed is good, the ends justify the means. They get things done. Their approach has been one that has worked. They've expanded business, they've expanded wealth. They have the trickle-down economics theory, the rising tide floats all boats. I'm not a political person, but I'll use a political story. The boomers like Hillary Clinton when it comes to Democrats. Overwhelmingly, millennials like Bernie Sanders. An interview that I saw with Hillary Clinton, she was befuddled because she said, I'm going to lower tuition costs. I'm going to deal with student loan debt. I'm going to get things done. And she's speaking to the boomer ethos. The boomers get it. They go, I don't care if her means are unpleasant. She's going to get it done. Millennials don't have the same ethos, so they're not going to buy into that. So there's the boomers. Gen X, that's me. It's probably some people here. Individuality, punk rock, subversive anarchy, leave me alone. In our spare time, we play in garage bands, we brew micro beer in our basements. Our generation has transformed entertainment and even sports. Think of the X Games. These are individual sports. My generation surfs and skates and rides bikes in mountains. We're not on teams. The individual is sort of the ethos of Gen X. Millennials. Millennials have a pretty exciting ethos that resonates with me. I work a lot with new businesses, startups, and I'm ecstatic about the ethos that's coming from the millennials. Let me read you some statistics. 57% of millennials have volunteered in the past year. 72% said they're willing to sacrifice a higher salary for a more personally and professionally fulfilling career. 44% have turned down a job offer because of the company's values. Nearly half rejected assignments at work because of conflicts with ethics. 56% have sworn never to work for specific companies. 87% of millennials think a company's success should not be measured purely by the financial performance and should include a larger purpose. 62% want to work for a company that makes a positive impact. Half prefer purposeful work to a higher salary. 53% would work harder if they were making a difference to others. In my practice, I work with a lot of startups, new businesses, people building products around intellectual property. And here are some of the phrases that I hear almost every week. I want to start a business with a conscience. I want to change the world. I want to make an impact. I want to make a difference. I want to do good. These are very big ethical statements coming out of the millennials. I hear the Gandhi quote, "Be the change you want to see in the world." This is a certain level of idealism, maybe, but it's an ethos that permeates the millennial generation. And I would think that most of you here, if I raise my hand that are under 30, these statements would resonate with you. You want purpose, you want to make a difference, and that is this exciting ethos that's resonating amongst millennials. I had an attorney, new attorney, buy me a drink. She was looking for advice on what to do when she was graduating and needed a job. And I said, well, what do you want to do? What do most lawyers have some sense of something they like. And she said, guess I want to change the world. And so I said, well, how do you think you can do that? I mean, it's a pretty big statement. I felt a little bad because I had no such statement when someone asked me what I wanted to do after graduating law school. Was it a Gen Xer? I'm like, make some money, work for myself in my pajamas, be independent, skateboard on the boardwalk, go surfing. Yes, leave me alone. Almost every law student I've met in the last 5 years, graduating or new to law school, has a similar belief that they can do something, that they can change the world. So when I asked her, she said, I don't know. That's the problem, is I know I must. And she said, I'll die trying. And, I stepped back and thought, what advice can you give somebody? So I'll tell you the advice I gave her. I told her that she could change the world in whatever job she ended up taking, if she continued to hold fast to this belief that she could. And she was a little taken back because in her mind somewhere was the idea that she needed to start something, do the next Tom's Sandals, sell water, and be sure that every drop of water sold, a drop of water is given somewhere else. These are brilliant business models, right? And we certainly, they can stir passion in us. But in the same way that not all startups are going to be the next Facebook, not all millennials who are trying to do something good need to be the one that starts the next business that makes its mark in the world. What will really make a difference in terms of ethos, changing society, is if every one of you takes your ethos seriously and takes it with you into your workplace. I had a different conversation with a blogger who was asking similar questions of me. And so I used a personal example for her. I mean, I didn't set out to become an attorney with some mission to save the world. But what I have done is make it my ministry. And I'll use the word ministry because I actually spent 4 years in ministry. And a lot of people say, how could a pastor become a lawyer? It's a little bit like saying, why is a lawyer talking about ethics? We don't have the best reputation of being honest and contributing to society. There's a whole class of lawyer jokes, right, that are basically view lawyers as between something bad and something terrible. And I think we deserve it because I think lawyers have been part of the ethos that supported the greed is good model in society. But I said to her, look, I left the ministry knowing that I just needed to help somebody a couple times a year because that's all I thought I could do when I was in ministry, truly. And since leaving, I help hundreds of people a year. And I'm not just charging them a fee to provide a legal service. I am shepherding. I am engaging them. I'm caring about them. I'm losing sleep for them. Now, what if, whether you're a lawyer, graphic designer, marketing director, what if whatever you do, you carry this ethos that you want to change the world? Hold on to that and bring it with you into every role you fill. That might change the world. Because this ethos problem needs ethos to change it. And Xers, we're not going to make it. We're not going to help you guys. I mean, maybe we'll support you, but we're a small generation. We're half your size. And you have this boomer problem that's huge. Right? And my generation is going to be like, yeah, but I want to go mountain biking or something, right? I want to go climb a peak. I want to accomplish my personal goals. And so it's going to be up to your generation to take your ethos seriously and to believe that you can make a change because the boomers made a change. That ethos seeped through into every aspect of society. So why not you? Why not your generation bringing its ethos to bear and actually bringing massive change to society, changing the world? There's a price to be paid. What's the difference between idealism and doing something? Writing the check, right? Your ethos, millennials, can make a huge difference in the world if you're willing to pay the price. Not everyone's willing to pay the price. Sometimes your ethos is just a marketing tool. Take the Mass Brothers, the bearded chocolatiers that alleged to be making farm to apartment, hand-picked with virgin, well-paid labor, packaged with hand-wrapped with love packaging, with ink that's probably edible, right? The ethos can just become a tool for marketing and not transform anything. And in their case, it turned out to be what might have been a sham. You have the opportunity to carry your ethos into everything that you do. But you've got to pay the price. And you know some of these, right? You got to pull your weeds if you want to fight Monsanto. Because that weed killer that you're buying probably is made by those guys, right? If you want to fight the man, you want to fight genetic modification, there's a price to be paid, right? In some sense, a lot of millennials are doing this with, say, urbanization, right? Smaller footprint. You're not buying the big houses out in the suburbs. You're paying a price by doing that. Living small, living simple, reducing your carbon footprint. And these are all the things you already know. But the thing that a lot of people don't think about is this concept that what you are doing every day in your job and who you are, the no asshole rule Nate announced earlier, right? Don't be an asshole. Carry this into your work, into your life, into how you drive. How you drive. I've spent the last year living in Bali, taking a sabbatical, and the roads are insane. So a lot of people think of Bali as something like Fiji, like a beautiful island resort. It's not. It's the second or third world. I mean, it's insane. You take your life into your hands on the roads, and so every day on a motor scooter, I'm, in the crowds, in the fray. There's a rule: cut off and forgive. There's no road rage. I mean, occasionally someone gets upset because someone is being a jerk, but for the most part, if I'm in a big hurry, I'm going to cut people off and they forgive. And when someone else is in a hurry, I let them pass. And so the cutting in line is part of the process, and they're zen with that, and it functions. Here, if someone's a little bit rude on the road, our blood pressure goes up, we get angry, then we react, or maybe we're just the bad drivers. That wasn't my Subaru in the picture, Nate. Promise. I have an alibi. Take your ethos into your life every day in every way. Funny story, last night I had a little networking event that's part of a group that I host about 2 times a year. Someone who was supposed to be here this morning came. He informed me that he canceled coming because he was surfing, waves hit, so he's not here. But he asked what I was talking about, so I told him. So he doesn't have to be here because I already told him what was going on. He said, I'm stealing his story. He said, I heard an old proverb. There's a man who says, I'm laying bricks. There's another man who says, I'm laying mortar. And there's another man right next to them who says, I'm building the Taj Mahal. It's a matter of perspective. It's a matter of understanding your role in transforming society, regardless of how important you might feel that it is important. So there's my challenge to you. I don't think you'll be alone. I do think that as you lead millennials, the Gen Xers will follow, will support you. And I think that the boomers will come around. They were hippies once before they got all greedy, right? In their old age, they'll come back. We'll have some hippie come back out of them. And they'll have the money that they've spent the last 30 years stealing. So we'll get it back, right? And we'll do some good with it and change the world. Thank you very much.